and we'll assess the community. And we'll triage it so that when they are able to come, we can provide them with information in terms of, okay, this apartment complex has this status with these people still in it. And this is the structural integrity of the building and so on and so forth. We also have had some medical training, but not a lot, just enough to help stabilize somebody. If they are injured, we can attempt to stabilize them and bring them to a medical area where we'll have better trained people to deal with broken arms and legs and cuts and things of that nature. But the whole idea is to gather as much information as we can for the emergency responders when they can get to our neighborhoods, our community. And given the fact that we are in a tsunami area, before I get to that, let me say, we are always looking for volunteers to join our team. And our organization is really run through the Whatcom County Sheriff's Department. And through their department, we offer training. And so even if you don't know the first thing about emergency response, but you are interested in helping your neighbor or even helping yourselves and your family, we encourage you to join our organization. The training's free, a lot of fun. We have a great group of people. And the whole idea is to help our community whenever the community needs help. So I would encourage you to consider joining us or asking us about more information, and we'd be happy to provide that. And with that said, let me introduce our speaker because Monica is a very unique individual. When she was a child, age 13, she and her family were in Thailand and firsthand experienced the Indian Ocean tsunami. That is the world's largest tsunami. And in Thailand and Indonesia, it killed, I think, over 250,000 people, including your parents. And she was 13 years old. And as you will learn, she got swept up by the tsunami and carried by the tsunami and kept underwater by the tsunami. And through her efforts as a 13-year-old, she was able to survive. And because we are in a tsunami area, we've reached out to Monica and asked if she'd be willing to give us a presentation of her experience and also provide us insights into what she experienced and how people like us can provide support for any tsunami survivors from her perspective, from a survivor's perspective. And so, I've listened to Monica speak on 2 other occasions, and it's very inspiring. But I'm looking forward to this presentation, especially because she's offering a unique perspective that will help responders be more sensitive to the needs of the survivors and to be better educated as to how to assist them. So with that, let me turn it over to Monica, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I would like to emphasize that this is my experience. I am not trained. I'm not a survival expert, so I'll be speaking just from my perspective, what I experienced and what was going through my mind. And I hope it is helpful, but again, I'm not an expert. Just a little disclaimer right there. I wrote a book with my experience. It's called Surviving Tsunami at 13, where I go into a lot more detail into everything than I will here. First, some facts about this tsunami, to draw a picture of what it was. It's in the Pacific Ring as well. It's kind of ironic that I live in the Pacific Ring, just on the opposite end of it. God is funny like that. The earthquake that originated this tsunami was the third largest in history. And the tsunami. It's considered the deadliest, and it's an approximate number, almost 230,000 deaths, including my parents. Millions displaced in 14 countries, and billions estimated in material losses. To give you an idea, this earthquake is the equivalent of thousands of Hiroshima bombs, atomic bombs, and the numbers vary, but the most conservative is 1,500 Hiroshima atomic bombs, and so that's even for me, very difficult to imagine, because when you're in it, you don't know what's happening, and then to read about it, it's surreal. The waves were up to 100 feet. The max was 167 because Sumatra, it's the closest to the epicenter there. And then I was in Thailand, which the waves took about 9 minutes to get there. And I was in Thailand, I was in Khao Lak, which is like a straight line from here, and was considered the second most deadliest place next to Sumatra, because it's right there. The rupture of the earth was just immense, 800 miles, 400 miles just on the first phase of the earthquake. The rest 400 were progressive, and 30 up to 30 miles below. This even changed the shape of the planet, such was the impact. It made the earth a little rounder, shortened the days, caused a pole shift, the Earth's rotation change also, and caused a permanent rise of the global sea level. Of course, all of this is minimal. It doesn't impact our everyday lives, but it was big enough that the scientists could calculate those numbers. So again, this is so the first town to get hit was right here, and then a straight line from there, it's where I was at the beach with my parents. I put this map over here to show you, because the closest airport to where I was in Phuket. And after the tsunami, we had to figure a way to get me there. And it was not exactly easy. And this is where our resort was. It was far from the beach, so it was intact, and this whole road was intact as well. And I was able to return to our resort afterwards. But again, that morning we were at the beach, maybe somewhere over here, because of a boat that I'm going to show you soon. So let me take you to December 26, 2004. We get to the beach that morning, rather late. And this is the tide on a normal day. This picture was taken 10 years later, but it's the same beach. And you see that I'm standing on one of those resorts that are right on the sand. And you see the water is right there. But on the day of the tsunami, there's just no water. You just see a thin line on the horizon. And that was odd, but we didn't know that this wasn't just a low tide. We just didn't know. We have low tides here in Birch Bay, but one thing you won't see with the low tide is you won't see fish flopping everywhere. And that's what we saw. Fish were dying everywhere. And that should have been a clue, but it wasn't. We just didn't know any better. And no one on that beach knew any better. So in this horizon, there was this boat, and it was like stuck on the sand. And that was strange. But again, we just didn't know that should have been a sign. And this is very far away, so it's difficult to grasp the dimensions of this boat. And this boat was actually dragged inland, and this is counting from the sand, not from back here on the horizon, just from the sand. It was 2 miles dragged inwards. And what looked small up close, it's rather large, a heavy boat, police boat. And so when the wave came, because it's not like in the movies, I told you they were 100 feet tall, but that's not what I saw. Because the wave, if you think just a regular wave, it gets tall and then it rolls and crashes and then it goes, right? And that part that just washes over, it's not very tall, and that's what I saw. I didn't see the big movie tsunami wave. I just saw that last part, last phase of the wave. And it didn't look very scary at all. And it went under this boat, and it seemed like nothing. The boat just balanced, and it was fine. And I thought the water was coming to fill the empty place. But the water kept coming, and then I thought, okay, it's just gonna make some damage on these resorts that are right on the beach. I mean, why would they do that? Why would they build resorts right on the sand? It's their fault. And I thought it was all ridiculous. Everyone was running away. I didn't understand why everyone's running away. Just, okay, kind of caused some damage, but everything's going to be fine. But the water never stopped. And eventually, I am running not just because I'm told to run by my parents, but now I'm in what I call survival mode. A lot of people ask me what goes through my mind, what went through my mind as I was fleeing for my life, and the truth is nothing. Nothing was going through my mind, or maybe mostly nothing. And what I'm going to explain to you, this is a theory. Not every scientist agrees on it, but from a survivor perspective, it felt very real. So this theory says that our brain is divided in three parts. We have our rational thinking brain, here in blue. We have our emotional brain, and we have our reptilian brain that we share with all animals. Just like this dog. Right on cue, thank you. And it's this reptilian brain that was working. Everything else was completely shut off. To give you an example, I didn't know this was a tsunami. I didn't know why I was running. I just didn't know. I was just running because I was running. And the emotional part, I'll give you this other example. As I was fleeing, I kept glancing back. And I have this sequence of images imprinted in my brain forever, which I'm running, and there's my parents right behind me, and there's a lot of people behind them, and then there's the wave. And then I look back again, there's just my parents behind me, and then I look again, just my father, and then again, just water. And all of this, it meant nothing but I need to run faster. Every single time, it just meant I need to run faster. I didn't process emotionally or even rationally what this meant. It all just meant I need to run faster. And that was all. And I'm very thankful that that's the case. I'm very thankful that that's how our brains work. Because if I did have time to process things and to think and to feel afraid even, because I wasn't scared. I didn't feel anything. I was just highly focused on running. And I'm so grateful, because if I did have time to think, I would have been scared and I would have probably died. But eventually I am swept by the water, because you can't outrun a tsunami for very long. And now instead of running, I'm swimming. I'm not scared. I'm not frustrated. I'm not feeling anything except I need to swim. It was just logical in that sense. But as soon as I go to swim, however, I find out that, well, I can't just swim. I am surrounded by wreckage. It's everywhere. And I realize that I'm just another object among all of this other stuff. There's no space to move my arms or legs without touching anything. So how do I swim? And that's when this thought occurred to me. Use your obstacles as a ladder. And then I wonder, well, how? How do I do that? And that's when a memory is brought forth. It's a memory of my father. He was an airplane pilot, and he loved talking physics. And I was a good student at school, and I loved physics. I had a good teacher in physics as well. But I think a lot of my knowledge came from my father and his almost daily lessons on physics. He always coming up with little problems. So this time we were on an airplane. I don't know where we were going, but he was telling me how me and him, us, the airplane and this cup of water that he had on his table, we are all traveling at the same speed. And because we're all traveling at the same speed, this cup of water, to us, it seems static, even though it isn't. It's traveling at the same speed of the airplane. And because it seems static, I can pick it up, move it from one table to another, and it stays there. So I decided to try that out. I picked what felt like a plank. I just pushed it an arm's length, felt it to see if it would stay there, and it did. It stayed there. So that made me realize, hey, I can manipulate these objects. I can, in fact, use them as a ladder of sorts. Furthermore, I remember Archimedes, right? The buoyancy, all of this stuff that I was feeling, it felt like it was wood, so it was buoyant. And so I decided to use that for my favor. I don't know if it really helped or not. In my head, it did. What I did was I would grab whatever was on top of my head. I would just push everything away from my head, and then I would just pull it down. And because it's wood, it's going to want to go back up. And I would use that energy as a boost of sorts. And this is how I swam. This is how I use my obstacles as a ladder. And I reached the surface. In fact, I reached the surface many times. This one is probably obvious. Like, you go with the flow. You don't spend any energy trying to fight the current. It'll be pointless. And it's going to take all of your energy just to stay up top. So don't waste any energy on anything else. Just go with the flow. Don't try to fight it. Just swim up. Nothing else matters. And I mentioned that I reached that surface many times because as soon as I reach the surface, I would take a breath and I'll be pulled down forcefully. I'll just be pulled down by my feet straight back down. And, I didn't mention here, but there's a reason for this, like it's physics. First of all, heavier objects on like a current, I knew this from school, heavier objects, they travel deep. So there were physical forces pushing me down because I was this heavier object, because it's just how physics works. And I had to use all of my strength to fight this force just to stay up top. And it took everything, absolutely everything I had just to keep my head above water. But you know what? I was fine. I told myself my legs are strong. All these years, not just in genetically strong, but all these years of volleyball, my legs are strong. I'm good. I can do this. As long as I'm breathing, I'm fine. I'm fine. Until I wasn't fine. Suddenly, after being battling the waters, I don't know how long, I suddenly see my legs. And I'm very confused by this. How is it that I can see my legs? And then that's when I look further down and I see what looks like a waterfall. I had just been projected off a cliff. I don't know if it was the ground that went down, if it was something that was already there. I don't know. I just saw a waterfall. I can't tell you how high it was either. I mean, after the tsunami, I was going up and down escalators on the mall trying to match the height to this mental picture, and I could never do it. And as the years pass by, it only gets more difficult. So I don't know how high it is. It's a very freaking question. I don't know. It was high enough. It was high enough to scare me to death. Because now my little lizard brain, I can't run away from this. I can't hold on to anything. All there's left is fear. And that's what I feel. I feel pure fear and nothing else but fear. I'm screaming at the top of my lungs the whole way down. And my own voice, it feels like foreign to me. It's like it's not me, but it's me. It's like a scream out of a horror movie. And it just feeds the fear. Like, my fear feeds itself. And it's all that exists. I describe this in the book as being inside a bubble of fear. And eventually I'm underwater again. And this bubble was such that I didn't feel the impact. I don't know if it hurt my body. I was just suddenly, I wake up and I'm underwater and I'm swimming again. And as soon as I get out of this fear mode, I realize, wow, I did something really dumb. I was screaming the whole way down. And now I'm underwater again, possibly even deeper than before, and I have no air in my lungs. And that is what fear does. Just one single moment of fear will make your situation, your bad situation, into something way worse. So when people tell you to stay calm, remain calm in emergencies, that's for a reason. Fear only make it worse. So you just, as much as you're able, just try to remain calm. Now, let me tell you about a little bit more about fear and what I experienced fear in other people. Eventually, the water starts receding, and I'm at this point I'm holding on to this cable between two trees, and I think that the water receding, I think that's going to make it easier for me to get out of the hole that I'm in, essentially, because I'm surrounded by stuff. But it actually makes it more difficult because the objects, they just fall together, they solidify together, so they become hard to move around. And I really need someone to just pull me out of there. And I see people start showing up, and I'm screaming at the top of my lungs, I'm waving my arms like over here. And even though they're so close to me, they're so, like right where you are perhaps, they're so close to me, and I'm screaming, and they don't see me, they don't hear me. And I knew they were in their own fear bubbles. There was no reaching them. Luckily, there is one man that does spot me, and he's way far away, but he sees me, and he tells me to wait because he's going to go further to the beach to get someone else, and then on the way back, he's going to grab me. But I'm in flight mode at this point. I need to run away. I need to get out of here. I cannot wait. Do not tell me to wait. I cannot wait. I just can't. It's against everything in me that's telling me to run. So I couldn't wait. I am able to get out of this hole by myself because I have the brilliant idea, like, hey, I'm grabbing onto this cable. So I just lifted my body on this cable, like immense strength that I never had. Like, I was a girl in school that couldn't do a single pull-up, and here I was lifting my whole body. Power of adrenaline, thank God. And I got out of this hole by myself. And in a few steps, I reached dry land, and then I understand, oh, that's why he told me to wait. I was so close to dry land. That's probably why he told me to wait. And I do take a moment just to contemplate and take a mental picture of everything that's going on. And as I'm just standing there, another man approaches me, and he starts asking me questions. He asks if I'm alone, my parents' names, and, he's talking, but I'm not really listening. And that's because, he's talking too much, asking too many questions. And my brain, I'm not thinking. I'm in flight mode. I'm in survival mode. So I can't think. My rational brain is in thinking. He's asking me names that forces my brain to, like, think rationally and logically, and I just can't. But eventually, he tells me there's a second wave coming, and he just points to this path that he was probably telling me about and says, go. And that unlocks my brain. That unlocks my leg. And now I'm running again. All it took was just pointing, go. And that was all I needed. So in my experience, if you can just, as much as it is possible, just be concise in your instructions, like, go this way. Because people aren't thinking. They're not able to process too much in that state. But that's my experience for me. Another thing that I realized in myself is that the natural instinct, it is very selfish. You don't really care about others. And there are exceptions. There's people, there are extraordinary people who are the exception, but most people, they are not the exception. And they are going to be selfish. And I'll give you an example. I encountered this couple. They had 2 little children, and she was pregnant, and she was in a lot of pain. And he was begging this driver in a truck to just take them somewhere safe. But as soon as I realized that the driver wasn't taking us anywhere, I jumped off the truck and I left. And he had pointed somewhere towards the mountains, so that's where I went. I didn't even think about this pregnant woman anymore. I just, in that moment, truly, I didn't care. It was all about me and saving myself. And if I were to feel anything, I would have felt frustrated by now three people who told me to either go or wait because they're gonna go get someone else, and I would be like, hey, here I am. You found me, saved me. Why are you going towards the beach to go get someone who might not even be there, who might not even be alive? Here I am. Take me. And well, this is the how the lizard works. And I'm sorry, it's not very nice. Um, I reached the mountain, and right at the base, there was a group of people. And, we have this natural instinct to be with people, to be in a group. We feel safe when there's other people around. But there's a difference between feeling safe and being safe. I didn't feel safe because they were right at the base of the mountain. I didn't think they were high enough. So I decided, I saw a group of people higher, so I went to them, and then I saw yet another group, and I decided I'm going to keep going up until I reach the group of people that's like the highest in the mountain. And I did this, to the point where I just couldn't go any longer. I mean, I fell to the ground, I couldn't get up, I went on my knees, still my arm, like I fell down, I was crawling, my arms like gave out, and I was just, using everything. And every time I fell and I slid down, it was just, like every inch is so precious. It took so much effort. But I will hold on and I will keep going, keep going. Well, did I need to do all of that? No. I was safe at the base. I didn't have to use up all of my energy. And if there was someone there that could have reassured me, hey, you're safe here, you don't need to go any further, you're okay, that would have helped, probably. I don't know. Or maybe I would still be in my flight mode and just go up anyways. I truly don't know, because I'll never know. Another thing that I beg you is tell the truth, or at least don't lie. A few days later, where every time there was an alarm, or they would like sound alarms, and everyone would run to the mountains for safety because there's another wave. And during one of those times, there was a woman who told me that she had seen my dad at the beach. But I knew that it was a lie. She was just trying to make me feel better. First of all, she told me she saw him before I even showed her his picture. And just sometimes you can just tell when people are lying. It was very obvious. She was just trying to make me feel good, trying to create hope in me. But imagine if I had believed her. I would have probably wanted to go to the beach and find my father. I would have spent days, weeks, years thinking that my father was alive or had been alive for a period of time, and I didn't go to him. The amount of psychological damage this would have made. So just please don't lie to people, even if you're trying to make them feel better. If you don't know something, just say you don't know, or just don't lie. You don't have to lie. We can take the truth. Kids, even 13-year-old, maybe younger, we can take the truth. The truth is better than a lie, because the lie might feel good right now, but the repercussions from that lie years later, it's going to be so much worse. So, yes, tell the truth, or at least don't lie. And then, because I also experienced this, you might find people who are in an euphoric state. They're laughing, they're so happy to be alive. And I remember being in the mountain, when I finally felt safe, I just wanted to laugh. I was so happy to be alive. And I was truly euphoric. And just remember this little scene from the movie. This is me. This is like how I was feeling inside. I'm alive. But I knew that this would be so weird. So I just maybe smiled when no one was looking. But this is inside. This was me. I'm alive. I survived this. Furthermore, I'm alive, and I survived this without a scratch on me. Remember all those facts? Hiroshima bombs, we're at the beach. Not a scratch on me. Not a scratch. Which leads me to this last thing that I want to talk to you about. Because, eventually you're going to encounter something in your life, whether it's a natural disaster or something in your personal life. You're going to have to deal with something where no amount of knowledge is enough. There's no enough physics, not enough biology, not enough anything that can help you, not enough training. And you'll find yourself at the end of yourself. And it's precisely at the end of yourself that you find God. And this is what the tsunami was for me. I reached my end. There was a moment that I kind of skipped by, but I almost died. I almost drowned that day. I truly reached the end. And there I found God. And it's God that helped me overcome the tragedy and the loss and really everything that came with this disaster. And there is a temptation to give in to fear and to just, it's so easy to just give up, Life gets hard, suffering, pain, it's not pleasant. And there is a true temptation to just give up. But I beg you that please don't give in to fear and endure, persevere, because it's cliche to say this, but the only way out truly is through it. And every day that you wake up, thank God you woke up, right? But you do have a choice. And I hope that you will remember this and remember to choose life. That's what I did that day. I was dying. And a memory was brought forth. My mother, my parents, they weren't religious, but my mother was a little spiritual, let's say. And she was telling me stories of other people who had been between life and death, and how an angel had appeared to them and offered them the choice of life and death. So there was this presence that I could feel that was just there, observing, waiting, and I suspect this presence is the one that was feeding me all those thoughts and like memories from classes in the airplane, because again, my rational brain wasn't thinking, so this had to be coming from somewhere. So for the first time, consciously, I addressed this presence, whatever it was, and I asked it, hey, isn't this the part where you offer me a choice? Because I was in so much pain. I was in so much pain. I could feel every muscle fiber in my body. And every moment I thought, this pain can't possibly get any worse. But it did. It just kept getting worse. With time, as time passed by, as I kept swimming, the pain was just getting worse and worse and worse. And, I just couldn't take it anymore. And it was so tempting to choose death, because I've heard of people who had near-death experiences and their experience was terrible, so much so that they chose life and then they changed their life completely because it was so terrible. But my experience was really good. This pain, excruciating pain that I was feeling, it was slowly getting substituted by peace, to the point where I felt no pain and this amazing, phenomenal peace. And it felt like going home, the home that I instinctively knew. And then there was life. And I knew nothing about life, nothing. And so naturally, I think about what my life had been up until that point. And at 13, my life is just school. And I was a good student, I had good grades, but that was my life. I had plans for my future. And, out of that whole list of plans, really only two things mattered. I wanted to know true love, and I wanted to go home, die someday, because now I know that death is good and it's certain and I don't have to fear it. But when I do go, I want to go knowing that I've done some real work. It doesn't feel right to go home without having done some work first. So I chose life. And the exact instant that I choose life, I reach the surface. It's that moment that I reach the surface. Of all the moments that could have been, it's this one. And at the surface, I pass out, which is quite common. When you are not breathing for a long time, you pass out. Thankfully, this happened at the surface. And, Navy SEALs, they purposely do this where they go to the ends of themselves to the point of passing out underwater. But they use the buddy system. It's always in groups. There's medical assistance and all that. I didn't have anyone, but I should say, actually, I did have someone. Because this presence, it wakes me up, and it feels just like a real person holding me by my shoulders so that I don't sink and drown. And it tells me to call out for God, and it disappears. And this shook me, confused me. I resisted it, but eventually I realized I have nothing to lose. So I called out for God. And he came, he offered me a lifeline, literally a lifeline. There was this cable between two trees that was just at the right distance, right height, and was like glowing to me because God was highlighting it. So I held on, and as I'm holding, I feel arms get inside my arms to give me strength because I have none left. So he's giving me the strength to hold on. And the word salvation echoes in my mind. And at the time, I'm thinking physical salvation from this. I don't realize the true meaning of the word until many years later. But he doesn't stop there. When I'm out of the water and this man is talking to me, the man that I'm not really paying attention to, because he's asking or he's talking too much, I don't even know what. When this man is talking, this presence, it tells me his name. He says, I am Jesus. And I don't believe him. I think it's my mind playing tricks on me, and tell myself, Monica, now's not the time to be funny. No, like anyone but Jesus. I mean, if he told me his name was Buddha, if he told me his name was Gandhi, Siddhartha, Brian, like anything, but not that name. It couldn't be. But then, he does something better. I like this verse a lot. You can probably imagine why I relate to it. It says that suffering produces endurance or perseverance. Endurance, character, hope. Hope does not disappoint, but hope in what? Because of God's love that he's poured out into our hearts through the Holy Spirit. And that's what happens next. I feel God's love enter my heart. And let me explain how this feels. All of my life, and the reason I chose life because I wanted to know true love. So all of my life, I felt like I've lived in this beautiful garden. But I was inside this glass cube, so I could see the garden, but I couldn't feel it. I couldn't feel the breeze. I couldn't smell the flowers. I just knew there was more. I knew there was like an invisible barrier. There was more, but I couldn't touch it. But in the mountains of Kalak, upon seeing a father reunite with his daughter, the glass breaks. In that moment, this father and daughter, they're everything to me. I feel so privileged to be able to witness their reunion, that I feel, everything that I've went through, all the pain, all the suffering, it's worth it. And I would go through it again if that's what it took. Actually, even more than that, I would take upon myself all the pain and suffering of the whole world if that's what it took for this father and daughter to remain together. And that's when it hits me. Someone already did that. Jesus already did that. That's what he did on the cross. He took all the pain and suffering of the whole world so that we, all of us, not just one daughter, but all of us could be reunited with our Father. And when you feel God's love in your heart, it changes everything. This is what we call to be born again, because it feels like you are born again. And there's another verse in the Bible that says we love because he first loved us. And that's what I felt. Those people that they were going towards the beach to save other people against all odds, that I didn't understand why before. Now I understood. Now I understood why they were going towards the beach, because now I too was ready to give my life for someone else. And this is only because of the love of God. And today, the love that I love, I know it comes from Him. Because when I was on my own, I couldn't access it completely. There was just an invisible barrier. And now it's gone. And it's His love through me. His, not mine. I couldn't finish this without showing you my parents. This is in the 90s. This is just a few days before the tsunami. I have many more pictures in the book. 10 years later, I go back to Calac with this small 2 people reporter team. This woman, her name is Rita. She's the first person that convinced me to share my story. I know that's what I do, so you can blame her. So when she offered me to go to Thailand, of course I said yes. And I got to hear other people's stories and their experiences. This little girl, she lost her father in the tsunami, and they became Christian, which of course at the time I didn't understand why. It still took me a while to realize I was just only fighting a name, really. I really believed. Pretty much every boat that got stranded was turned into a memorial. So that's what these are. And these children, this was in a missionaries from Singapore. They have like this institution for children. Because I didn't know this before, but in Thailand there's a bit of a apartheid sort of thing going on where Burmese children, they can't go to school at the same time as Thailandese children have to go afterwards. And, they're not even considered human or fully human. So, of course, a lot of them converted to Christianism because Christians were the only ones taking care of them. And this is at Christmas celebrations. I got to be a part of that. It was really fun. To think this little dude is probably he's late 20s now. And this is Calac on a low tide. You can see some rocks and, there's water. It's not gone. And there's no fish dying either. This Mark Twain quote, the 2 most important days in your life are the day you are born and the day you find out why. And this is what the tsunami day is for me. It's the day that I was born again and the day that I found out why. And why it's pretty simple to live and proclaim what the Lord has done. And to tell all of you, even if you feel resistant, but if you feel, or when you feel like you are drowning for whatever reason in your life, just call out to God, because you have nothing to lose, only to gain. Thank you. If you have any questions, if there's something I didn't make clear, you're free to do so.
When you were in the water, under the water, did you know which way was up and which way was down?
It never occurred to me that maybe I was swimming the wrong direction. I just was swimming towards what I thought was up, and luckily I was right. But I could have been swimming diagonally. I don't know. Yeah.
Do you have any rough idea as to how long you were in the water?
No, did I turn this off? I have no idea how long I was underwater. I truly don't. But
Not underwater, in the water.
Overall, no. No. Yeah. No. Yes.
How far were you washed?
If that boat was washed 2 miles, I probably was washed the same. Maybe, I don't know. Because I was at the beach and I ended up, close to the main road there. So, yeah.
From a responder's standpoint.
Yeah.
When you got to the highest point on the mountain, what happened from there? Were there people there that came to help get you down, that helped organize it, that brought a bus, or what did the people do in our organize things to help people do?
That's a good question. So the group of people that were there, they came to me and like, they asked some questions if I was alone, if I like they saw my wet hair, like were you underwater? Because I noticed there were not a lot of those there, especially not so high. And there was this woman that kind of just took charge. She was like a natural leader. She just took charge of the whole group and eventually led us to and other groups to the resorts that were still intact, and I was able to return to my resort and stay there. um, and there was food that was brought up into the mountains at some point. I don't know who organized that, but someone took
The
charge.
resort was on higher ground.
Yes, yes, it was.
Did you feel that God was suddenly close by when before he was far away or all around? How far is God? How big is God? Where is God?
Well, now I felt like he was in me. He was in me, and yeah, and I was in those few days. I mean, I fought so much not to smile a lot, but I was so joyful. I was so grateful to be alive. Everywhere I looked, I just saw the love and people helping each other. I know there was chaos and there was death and there was people real seriously injured, but it's like I couldn't even see it. I have my love goggles on. I just saw the goodness of people, and I was just in awe of it all. I don't think it really hit me until maybe months later, and at this point I'm already in Portugal with family and being followed by a psychologist because it took a while to not be so happy all the time. I know it's a little strange to say that, but when you think you're dead and then you're alive, and it's your whole perspective changes. Every day you're just so grateful that you're alive, and things are going to be tough, but you're alive.
At what point did you recognize that you had lost your parents? Because it sounds like you were in a state of euphoria.
Yeah. So when I get out of the water, I know that they are gone, and to me it was God letting me know. He let me know from the start that they had passed away, and this came to be very helpful because it didn't let me create false hope. And I see the difference in my family because they had hope for 3 months. That's how long it took to find my parents' bodies. So for 3 months, I had hope of finding them, but I never had that hope. So I was able to start grieving, 3 months before, and really accepting. And now I also had dreams where, especially my mom, I saw that she was in heaven. So I had that spiritual reassurance that they're okay. They're in heaven, and like how life is just so short, and one day we'll be all together again. So the spiritual side helped a lot with that part. But I knew from the start that they were gone, and I'm very grateful that I knew from the start. And I say sometimes, God will tell you the truth even if it hurts, because a lie is just so much worse in the long run. It's so much worse. And hope is a beautiful thing when it's true. When it's false, it's the worst thing, I believe. Yeah.
So you were 13 and you've been through this global tsunami and your parents have passed away and you're staying back in your resort for yourself.
I am surrounded by beautiful strangers who kind of take care of me, stay with me. When communications came back on, which I didn't talk about that part, because we were out of electricity and water for a few days, and then it's like all of it came back almost at once. And there was this Norwegian couple who they were able to contact their family in Norway. It's their family in Norway that then contacted the Portuguese embassy, and then the Portuguese embassy called this Norwegian couple's cell phone, and I was able to talk with the embassy myself. And then really the embassy just took over everything. I mean, Norway, Portugal. We were living in China at the time, so like they made it happen between all these countries.
Who did you go to live with then from there? I mean,
Eventually, it was decided that I was going to live with an uncle of mine. He lives really close to his parents, my grandparents. So it's like it's my uncle and my grandparents, kind of his house. But my grandparents are there daily. So I had that family, which I didn't know very well because I always lived abroad. I'm from Portugal, but I always lived abroad. So this was like a family that I saw maybe once a year, if that. And I didn't know them very much. It took some adapting. Yeah, but I was okay. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Monica. Thank you very much for attending. Just one more thing, and that is Monica has written a book about her experience and beyond. And you can find it on Amazon, and she also brought some copies here. And if you're interested, I would encourage you to take a look at the book and buy it. It's only, what, $20? So with that, I wish to thank you. And again, I'd like to encourage everybody to think about joining our Blaine Emergency Response Team group, because we're always looking for more people to help our community. Thank you very much. Yeah.
If anybody's interested in joining and trying to find out more about the classes, Doug is here from the Bellingham, and he can get you give him your contact. He can let you know when classes are being scheduled in the area. You need to go to first aid and how to assess emergencies and stuff. You get to meet great people. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much, Monica. I really appreciate it. Enjoyed
Thank you
it
for
very
the
much, and I
opportunity.
appreciate the slant that you did in terms of information that we responders can be more
Yeah,
sensitive
I was trying to think of things. But
to. You did a nice job. Thank you very much.
thank you. Oh, let me turn this off.